Cue the cheesy podcast music.
Welcome to Megafest, where we don't just manifest, we Megafest. I'm your host, Megs Malloy. I'm creating a community of silly and soulful working moms who are mostly happy, but know they're capable of more. More self-love, more self-esteem, more self-trust, more calm, joy, natural highs, more magic in the world, and more laughter. Each week, me and my guests will bring you tips and tricks on how to make the most of your one precious life. And we're going to make them effective and efficient because ain't nobody got time for that. I believe in you. I see the light in you. I want you to shine your light. I want you to become all that you're capable of. So let's hang out. Let's Megafest together. It's episode 1. I am here to tell you why I feel the need to embolden you. Embolden you. Okay. Every episode, we're going to have a word of the day because I believe that the words we use are so important. Of course, our whole reality on this planet in our life happens in between our ears in our one precious brain. The more we can use words that empower us, the better off we'll be. So today's word of the day is emboldened. If you don't know, I'll tell you what it means. To embolden is to encourage and create confidence to do something, to behave in a certain way. I couldn't have picked a more perfect word of the day because I want to embolden you, fill you up with courage, remove your timidity to have the life that you've always wanted. And that sounds really cliche. It is cliche. To be able to be the master of your mind, to make your inner space so peaceful and so lovely that you enjoy your life. When I was 20 years old, as a student, I was invited to a seminar. It was actually at Anaheim Stadium, I think, and it was all the greats were there. So it was like Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, gosh, and so many more that I'm forgetting about. And that sort of started my love of inspiring content, taking your life to the next level and really pursuing all that you are capable of. Then a couple of years later, my uncle bought me The Secret, loved it. You don't have to love it. I loved it. Every day I would write down, I make $90,000, $90,000. And that at the time was like so much money. It was 3 times the amount that I was making at the time. And just seemed like, to me, it was like $1 million. So fast forward 7 years later, I was making $90,000. And within 10 years, I was making $180,000. So I had nothing to lose by writing many pages in my journal that I make $90,000. In my late 20s, I did a lot of inner child work. I went to Al-Anon because I come from a family of alcoholics, and I figured that was something that I needed to heal to move forward in my life. So you might be wondering, why another podcast? I am doing this because I want to embolden you to be all that you can be, to know that you don't have to struggle in this life. As a working mom, you're doing all the things. And I know it's hard because I was there. In 2018, I had been working for a media company for over 10 years, and I was super bored. I came back from my second maternity leave, and I was like, oh man, something needs to change. So I started thinking in my head, I am going to manifest a job, and I don't know what this job is going to be, but I will be hired by one of my clients. A couple months went by, and I had finally gotten a meeting with a cemetery in town to do some TV advertising for them. By the end of the meeting, the director said, I think you'd be really good at this. Are you looking for another job? I thought, oh my God, universe, this is so crazy. I want another job, but I don't know if I want to work at a cemetery. But it turned out to be the best thing that I could ever have asked for. The best and the worst. It was the best because I learned so much about empathy, how death and life work together. It really helped give me perspective on life and how life is short. You never know when it's your time. It was the worst because I was working more than 40 hours a week in the office. I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I had a sales budget for selling cemetery property, which is kind of a tricky thing when you're dealing with a family who's just experienced a loss. And then you kind of have to turn this conversation around to like, so you're going to die too. Do you want to be buried next to your loved one? I mean, that was, not the sales pitch. And they would totally be so pissed that I'm saying it like that, but it was tricky. And I was basically doing all these things by myself. Because although I love my husband and we've come a long way, and I won't put all of this on him because there were so many times when I failed to delegate. I failed to raise my hand to say, I need help. How can anyone know that you need help unless you say, I need help? Well, I mean, they could notice, but it's not up to them to notice. It's up to you to say something. This I have learned. So I was basically doing a lot of the work myself. I felt like I was one bad day away from a breakdown. I was running on fumes. I was taking care of myself. I would get a workout in. I was going to see a therapist, but my check engine light was always on. My nervous system was completely dysregulated. It all came to a head one day. I was getting ready for work. I was there curling my hair in the bathroom. So the curling iron was hot and it was on the counter. And my 3-year-old came in to get some negative attention. I will never forget. I'm standing there looking at her, trying to tell her, like, give me a minute. I don't even remember what we were discussing. And then my 1-year-old comes up and puts his hand on the curling iron. Like, I didn't even notice it. All I hear was the curling iron fall to the ground. And I looked at his little baby hands and they had all these burned bubbles immediately come up. I lost it on her. And I actually had this thought. I hate to even say this because I fear that she will listen to this someday, but it's not about her. It's about me. And in that moment, I just thought, I just want you to go away. I just want you to disappear. And that is a super low moment for a mom when you just can't even deal. You want your child to disappear. So yeah. So I hit a new low of being completely stressed out. And then the day doesn't stop there. You have to get all the lunches ready, make sure you're remembering all the things, get the shoes on the feet when they don't even want to sit down and hold still for 2 seconds. They don't understand time and getting out the door. Then you get them in the car seat. Hopefully it's a good day where they're chill, but maybe not. Maybe you got to push them down into their seat. And all these things are making my nervous system like it's like an 8.3 earthquake. Like I just can't deal. So I'm yelling. I'm dysregulated. It's just hotmess.com. And then you battle traffic, you make a drop off for one school, and then you go to the other school and you drop off. And then you hope you have enough time for Starbucks, but maybe you don't because you're late for the meeting or to clock in, as I had to do. By the time I get to work, the first call I would get in the morning, because I worked at a cemetery, was, oh, hi, my mom just died. Can you help us? I had to leave all of my baggage at the door and be there for the families I was helping. It was nearly impossible. So I had to change. I was emboldened to change. When I had finally had enough, I knew I needed to do something. I needed to shift my energy before I walked in the door to work. So I started doing power-ups. My very creative husband came up with this name, Power Up. So I would get to work about 15 minutes early and I would park a little bit farther away so no one would really see me. I would get into sort of a calm state, and start breathing. Then I would take a minute for gratitude, and I would just try and pull up this deep, beautiful well of gratitude and appreciation for all the good things in my life. And then I would end it with one of several ways. I call it the celebration. So either I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, not in like a high-pitched way, but just in a yeah, like this is the power of me kind of way. Like a power pose with a yell, or I would do laughter yoga, or I would dance, or I would sing, something to kind of get me feeling like I am just coming out of a concert, or that is where I would really just go straight for the sky and get the fireworks coming out of my head. And then I would just walk into work and everyone would be like, wow, you look so happy. And like, how are you so cheerful? And I mean, granted, I am a cheerful person, but man, that power up just really took it to the next level. So that was something that I did in the moment to help me get through those hard days. And I have a tutorial on YouTube on how to do a power up. And you can do it in your car. You can do it in your home office. You can even do some breathing in the bathroom. But here we are at the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is 5 things that I have learned since my overwhelm and burnout. Number 1, nervous system regulation. OMG. If I had only known in the moment of me being on the verge of a burnout, I needed to learn how to efficiently and effectively calm my nervous system. Now, there's so many ways to do this. My personal favorite is just breathing. Who knew? Oxygen. It really is so simple. You don't need any tools, any special knowledge, except the knowledge of breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, doing it to a slower beat, or maybe, pretending you're, blowing out a birthday candle very softly. It's just so effective to take 3 belly breaths. You can really change your whole state and separate yourself from the hot mess. Number 1, learning how to calm my nervous system was a game changer. Game changer number 2, having a shiro mentality. For most of my life, I've had a victim mentality. Maybe you can relate to that. A lot of us do. Victim mentality is when you think, oh, woe is me. Somebody's going to fix it. My life is so hard. That's the victim mentality voice. But the shiro knows that she can handle anything that comes her way. And when I say that, my mind often goes to like the worst, most horrible thing that a mother could go through. And you know what that is? Yes, even that. But we're not thinking about that because chances are that's not going to happen. But you can handle anything that comes your way. You can figure it out. And just being aware of the victim speaking to you like, oh, it's and then just saying, no, you can figure this out. I know you can. What's one way that we could figure this out? Or, it's just as simple as that. That changed everything. I felt so emboldened to charge my life, to really move forward with confidence. And part of that shiro mentality is the ability to ask for help and also receive help. Game changer number 3, boundaries. I know you've heard of boundaries, and it is true. Everything you've heard about boundaries is true. For me, boundaries started with my relationship with my husband. My husband is incredible. He can be a powerhouse of emotions and enthusiasm. And sometimes the other side of that coin is anger and anxiety. Sometimes you don't know who you're going to get. I have a tendency to get wrapped up in those emotions, which isn't good. It doesn't do anybody any good. If I'm getting spun out with his hurricane of emotions and anxiety and anger, and then I'm in there, and it takes us so long to recover from that, especially me. So having boundaries with him has taught me so much about having boundaries with other people. It's like, you go. You have your meltdown or you have your opinion. That's cool. I can have mine. We can exist in the same reality. I don't take it on. That has really also helped regulate my nervous system too, because if I'm not getting worked up by somebody else, then I'm keeping my mind peaceful. In fact, one tip I will give you is when he comes in and he's like talking to me and he's like, ah, maybe he's excited about something. He's done that a lot these days. He's got a project going on. He's very excited. He'll come in and like, tell me all about it and everything's, and like, I imagine every time I breathe out, I have a boundary in between me and him. As I exhale, my boundary gets stronger and stronger, and it's impenetrable. Impenetrable. I think that's how it goes. This is something that you can use with your nosy boss, with your annoying coworker, sometimes even with your children. It works. I think it works. Game changer number 4. Okay, so self-care, totally cliche. And self-care looks different for everybody. But one thing I will say about self-care is it works. Now, let me tell you a little story about self-care. My sister-in-law is so good at self-care. She takes such good care of herself. I used to think it was very selfish, but really, it is so necessary. It is so necessary. You need to take care of yourself because look, if mama ain't right, ain't nothing right. What happens if you're not taking care of yourself and then you go to the hospital? I'm sure they'd be fine without you for a little while, but you don't want to be this person who's limping around on crutches because you're not icing your ankle, right? You want to keep up with your kids. And a little bit of self-care goes a long way. For me, that looks like working out twice a week. That's my thing. I've made a commitment to myself. I am going to get 2 lifts in a week. I'm going to make that time. For a while, I was doing walks. And that's good too. Whatever works for you. But I do believe that we need to move our body and get our blood flowing. And really that also helps with nervous system regulation. For me, I also feel so much better when I just eat nourishing food. I've gone from having an eating disorder in college to now I just follow an app that sets up my macros for maintaining my weight. And I just stick to that. And some people say, oh, that's not cool. That doesn't work for me. Well, that's fine. Find out what works for you. But for me, that definitely works. Self-care is also getting enough rest. A lot of moms, we feel like, oh, let's put the kids to bed. And then this is the only time I get for myself this hour. And that's cool. Maybe that's good for you. But like for me, if I don't get enough sleep and I'm finding like at least 8 hours, sometimes it's 10 hours. If I'm not getting rest, then I feel so tired the next day. I'm dragging and then I eat more. And then it's this cycle of like, why am I eating more? It's because I'm tired and it just perpetuates and it's not good. So get yourself some rest. And of course, water. Game changer number 5. A couple years ago, my husband took the Clifton Strengths Finder test and he with so much excitement, he came over and was like, you got to do this test. And more out of curiosity, like to know about me. What am I all about? We've only been married about 9 years. For me, taking that test was so empowering to have a name to my strengths. I just totally leaned into those strengths and said, yeah, that is who I am. I love myself. Let me just be me. Let me be more of me. So in case you have taken that test and you know your strengths, I will tell you mine. They are connectedness, where I believe we are all made of the same stardust, all beings on this earth, animals, one-celled beings, outer space, everyone, generations past, generations forward. Whether, whatever you look like, we are all connected. Okay, that was a big spiel about that. My second strength is woo, winning others over. man, I just love to meet new people. It just lights me up. I can't even contain myself. I just love it. My husband used to make me feel bad about that. Be like, oh God, you're going to talk to another stranger. I'm like, you know what? It lights me up. So yeah, I'm going to do it. My third one is positivity. Fourth one is empathy. And my fifth one is arranger, which I'm not quite super in tune with that. But the way I think of arranger is when I like to throw parties where there's a theme and we all get dressed up and there's a little bit of competition, but there's definitely a lot of fun and everybody's going to walk away with a memory and a feeling. I think for me, that's what arranger is all about. So game changer number 5, knowing yourself. It's super important to know your strengths. I think it's super important to know your values. If you know your values, then any life decision is a lot easier. If you are wondering, how do I want to spend my perfect day? What do you value? For me, it's family, health, and harmony, I think. Those are top 3 of 5. And it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot lately about the fact that sometimes we take things for granted. We don't know that we have them until they're gone. And one of the values I came across was belonging. And I feel like I come from a huge Irish family, and my husband's family is a big Italian family, and we just love each other. We get along. What a great thing. And I have some really amazing friends. I feel as if I belong. I have some pretty strong anchors in my life, and I value that. But I don't really recognize that I wouldn't really call it a value because I just have it. I don't know. Is that weird? And then I also would say it's important to know what brings you joy. As working moms, we often totally forget about ourselves. We had fun in our 20s and then some in our 30s. And then as our children grow, we forget what we like. And maybe we've changed and we need to start new hobbies. But I think it's important to go back and think about what brings you joy. So back to the original question. Why? Why another podcast? Why do we not just manifest? Why do we Megafest? Well, I believe that we all have a special gift inside of us, a bright light. I believe that being a working mom doesn't have to mean that you're stressed out and overwhelmed and on the verge of a burnout, because I was there and I survived, and I have so many tricks and tips to share with you so that you can enjoy your one short, precious life. Hopefully it's a long life, but working at a cemetery, I realized we don't know when it's our time. So we might as well just enjoy as much as we can. And really, look, our kids are growing up. It's so cliche, but they grow up so fast. And we know this. When you're working 40, 50 hours a week, or maybe even part-time, or even you're a stay-at-home mom, and you just forget to take a minute and soak up these special moments with your kids. I want to help you learn the tricks to do that easily, to be mindful, to really just enjoy this time. You might be happy now, but you are capable of so much more happiness. Like, let's just pretend like that's a glass ceiling and just shatter that glass ceiling. You can experience more joy. I'm here to remind you how to do it. Manifesting the life you want is all about setting your GPS. What do you want? And then enjoying the journey and doing the work to get there. But how do you enjoy the journey? That's why we say we don't just manifest, we Megafest. Because we are here to enjoy our journey. I will be sure you are emboldened to enjoy your life too. Thanks for listening. I love podcasts, and I am so honored to share this time with you and take space in your brain and in your ear. Thank you for listening. And I hope that you've learned at least one thing, or laughed a little, or taken something in. And if you have, I want you to subscribe to the show. I want you to go to my Instagram, megs.malloy, LLOY, and give a follow because we should totally be friends.